Hi guys, it's Phoebe from Who's Phoebe and welcome back to another Doctor Who video. As you guys know, I'm doing 24 days of Doctor Who where I review 24 classic episodes and we are on day 18 now. This review probably won't be my traditional normal 11 minutes because I finished just watching this particular Doctor Who story and it's now 9:39 and I have to feed the cats at 9:50, so I'll try and do this for as long as I can, but I have to make sure that I finish this before 9:50 or just after. So if you've never seen my face on your screens before, please click that big red subscribe button down below and also click the notifications bell to get notifications every single time I upload. I really do appreciate the support. Anyway, so behind door number 18 is The Mind of Evil. Now, when it comes to these reviews, I try to be as open and as honest as I possibly can, and I give you my positives and I give you my negatives, because surprisingly there are flaws in every single Doctor Who story. So, let's just get into it. So The Mind of Evil is in a prison setting, which I like. It's not happening at the unit base, which is very, very good. I really like that element because because with the Doctor's Exile, you want the Doctor to go to different locations. You want him to explore Earth. So yeah, of course we know that his exile comes to an end in season 12, but this takes place in the prison, and yet again the Master is behind everything. This season 8 is pretty much the Master. The next is the Claws of Axons and then the Demons, and I feel like this is just very, very full of the Master. I'm not complaining. I think it's really good to establish the Master in these particular stories. Mind of Evil is not my favourite due to the fact that it's a 6-part story and it just tends to drawn on. Now, this isn't anything to do with the actual story in itself. It's just because it all takes place in a prison and it gets to that point where it gets kind of boring. Like, it's good to establish the prison in the first episode, and I really liked that element of establishing that the Doctor has gone to this prison because there's a new prison project to reform prisoners, and naturally as a scientific advisor for UNIT, of course the Doctor is going to naturally be interested in seeing a prison reform project. So naturally he's going to go to a prison and expect to see this prison project being formed. And that is absolutely fine. I really do love the element of the Doctor going in. He has a unit pass, so he's naturally allowed access, and the prison accepts him and he goes in and he sees this. But what he doesn't expect is that the Master is actually behind this. The Master is very hypnotic, as we know from the early days of Doctor Who, and he basically hypnotises everyone into doing what he wills them to do. So, if you're under the Master's influence, he will hypnotise you and make you do what he wants to do. And that is evident when he hypnotises a Chinese lady into basically killing the world leaders. That is basically what he wants to do. He can be a real psychopath half the time. And this definitely shows in The Mind of Evil that the Master likes to be this being that is the Doctor's intellectual equal, but also gives the Doctor an awful lot of grief and UNIT as well. And this is definitely shown in The Mind of Evil when he takes over Stagmore Prison and he basically puts Jo in a cell, and he takes Jo and basically uses Jo as bait for the Doctor, really. And I know obviously why the Master is like this, but it's never really clarified as to he looked into the untempered schism when he was being enrolled into the academy, and it drove him crazy. And it drove him crazy enough to really annoy the Doctor and start doing the opposite to what the Doctor does. And when he arrests the Doctor and puts him in a cell, he makes the Doctor try and use his mind against this machine. He basically wants the Doctor to do his dirty work for him. That's basically the whole point of this story. He is keen to get the Doctor to control this machine and teach him how to do it. Of course, the Doctor is not going to do that because he's not the sort of person who would decide, oh yeah, I'm going to side with the Master and I'm going to do this. But in doing so, trying to defeat this machine and having nightmares, one of the Doctor's hearts stop, and the Master, I'm really kind of surprised by this, the Master says he's nearly dead. So what does he do? He revives one of his hearts. He revives the heart that is no longer beating and basically brings him back from a half-dead state. Now, I don't particularly understand why the Master did that. I mean, he would be more than happy to let the Doctor die if he had the opportunity to. And he had that perfect opportunity when the Doctor was having nightmares of like Daleks and Cybermen and everything like that rushing into his mind through this machine. He had the perfect opportunity to let the Doctor die, and he didn't. He got a stethoscope and did the heart, that revive thing that Time Lords do to revive one of their hearts, and yet instead of letting the Doctor die, he just was like, I'm gonna let you live. I'm like, I don't understand that. That has to be something to do with their frenemyship, because we know logically the Master can never really let the Doctor die. It's not something that the Master is ever willing to do. They are enemies, and the Master does taunt him through time and space. It's not something that the Master would ever do. It's not, he wouldn't let the Doctor die. It's not part of him, and he doesn't necessarily want to do it, because why would he? But the Mind of Evil plays on that premise of the Master being 1 minute really, really evil and willing to let the Doctor die, and then the next minute it goes to when they're working on the machine together, doing science together. Now this sounds logically really, really, really good in theory, and it's really nice sometimes to see these little bits of the Doctor and Master kind of forming an alliance. But obviously this alliance in the Mind of Evil doesn't last long. It literally lasts about 2 minutes, and the Master's back up to his old tricks again. And the Brigadier decides that they're going to take the prison, and he obviously does it by surprise, and he takes the prison, which is very successful. Unit goes storming in and basically rescue the Doctor and Jo. And the Doctor jokes about the Brigadier's timing being, for once, try not to delay your timing, being impeccable, like impeccable timing, as in the Doctor had a gun pointed to him and the Brigadier just shoots the guy that was about to kill him. Like, timing a little bit off there. But I think what makes this story more enjoyable is the fact that Unit get to do most of the action, and we actually get to see Sergeant Benton being acting governor of the prison, because the Brigadier is determined to arrest the Master at this point. He basically wants Benton to be acting governor until he returns. And the Master does these phone calls very, very similar to the Last of the Time Lords, and basically torments the Doctor and does his usual threats. And in order for the Doctor to defeat him, he does an ultimatum, because the Doctor knows he can do an ultimatum with the Master. It's pretty simple. All he has to do is, so he says, I will give you back your dematerialization circuit if you don't let that rocket off. that is the ultimatum that the Doctor gives the Master, and the Master agrees. And then there's a little scene at the end where the Master's back in his TARDIS and he says, "Enjoy your exile." And that is very, very, very mastery. And I really do like that. Overall, I think this story's got potential to be good. Don't really like the 6th part of it, so for that reason I'm going to give it a solid 7 out of 10. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up if you did, and make sure to hit the big subscribe button. Alonzi!